November 14, 2024, Austin, Texas. Emily Grace Harper stood before the mirror in her small wooden house in East Austin, tying her hair into a neat bun. At 38, she still carried a youthful glow, though faint lines around her eyes hinted at years of quiet struggle. A high school literature teacher at Travis Heights High, she loved her job. Those hours in the classroom weren't just a paycheck. They were where she found meaning. But Emily's life stretched beyond the pages of Austin and the essays of her students. She was the backbone of her family, caregiver to her aging mother, Margaret Harper, and mother to Sophie, an 8-year-old whose smile shone like the Texas sun. That morning unfolded like any other. The alarm blared at 6 a.m., pulling Emily from a dream of wildflower fields she'd seen as a child in rural Dallas. She slipped downstairs, started the coffee maker, and prepared breakfast for Sophie, toast with strawberry jam, a staple despite the girl's half-hearted complaints. "Mom, I've got a math test today," Sophie chirped, hopping around the table, her pigtails bouncing. Emily smiled, brushing her daughter's hair. "You'll do great, sweetie. Just stay calm." After sending Sophie off on the school bus, Emily turned to her mother. Margaret, 72, had been battling Parkinson's for 5 years, her trembling hands spilling half a glass of water. "Sorry, honey," she murmured weakly. Emily wiped the table gently, replying with endless patience, "It's okay, Mom. I've got it." That was how she lived, putting others first, even when she wondered if she had anything left to give. Work that day followed its usual rhythm. Standing before her 11th grade class, Emily lectured on The Catcher in the Rye, her voice rising and falling as she unpacked Holden Caulfield's loneliness. Noah Rodriguez, a 16-year-old with bright eyes and a passion for literature, raised his hand. "Miss Harper, do you think Holden ever finds peace?" She paused, considering. "He might, Noah, if he learns to trust in something bigger than himself." She didn't know those words would soon echo back to her own life. After class, Emily met Clara Nguyen, her college best friend, at a cozy cafe on South Congress. Clara, a free-spirited artist with lime green hair, was always the one to drag Emily out of her gloom. "You look exhausted, Em," Clara said, sliding a latte across the table. "You need a break." Emily gave a faint smile. "No time for breaks. Mom needs me, Sophie needs me, and those kids wouldn't survive next week's test without me." Clara shook her head. "You're always like this, taking care of everyone but yourself. Do you ever pray? I mean really pray, not just mumble through it." Emily shrugged. Raised in a Catholic family, her faith had faded over time. "I'm not sure God's got time to listen to me, Clara. He's probably busy with bigger stuff." Clara frowned but didn't push. She knew Emily was good-hearted, just too stubborn to open up. Back home, Emily got a text from Tom Wheeler, the elderly neighbor next door. "Miss Harper, fixed that chair Sophie broke last week. Come grab it." Tom, a retired firefighter, was always ready to lend a hand. Emily smiled, texting back, "Thanks, I'll be right over." She picked up the small chair with heartfelt thanks. "Call me if you need anything," Tom said, his eyes kind. Emily nodded, unaware that Tom would soon save her life. That night, Sophie stayed at her grandmother's a few blocks away, a random choice Emily would later call fate. Alone, Emily turned on the fireplace to chase away the damp Texas chill. She settled into her armchair with To Kill a Mockingbird, a favorite she planned to teach next week. But her head grew heavy, her vision blurred. "Must be tired," she muttered, setting the book aside. Carbon monoxide from the faulty fireplace silently filled the room. Odorless, colorless, and deadly, it went unnoticed. Emily didn't hear the clock ticking or sense anything wrong. She slumped to the floor, lifeless, as the wind outside moaned through the old oak trees, as if nature knew what was happening. Tom Wheeler, walking his dog, glanced through her window and saw her collapsed. "Good Lord," he whispered, pounding on the door. No response. He called 911. The rescue team arrived in 10 minutes, breaking in, dragging Emily out, and starting CPR. Her heart had stopped for 6 minutes. A lifetime in the world of the living, but for Emily, it was the beginning of a journey beyond imagination. As her consciousness slipped from her body, Emily felt no pain or fear. Instead, an extraordinary lightness washed over her. Her body, with its aching shoulders from teaching, its weary hands from caring for her mom, vanished. She felt like a falling leaf, drifting in a space without gravity or limits. The worries that once bound her, is Sophie safe? Is Mom okay? Dissolved like smoke in the wind. There was no dark tunnel or blinding light like the near-death stories she'd read. The transition was gentle, as if she'd stepped through a thin veil from one reality to another. Time ceased. Past and future melted into an endless present. Am I dead? She wondered, but the question carried no dread, only a soft curiosity, like a child exploring a new world. She felt herself merging with the space around her, like a raindrop into a vast lake. The burdens of earthly life, sleepless nights, arguments with Mom over meds, stressful parent-teacher meetings, shrank into distant, trivial specks. For the first time, Emily felt utterly free, enveloped in a peace she'd never known amid life's rush. When Emily looked around, unsure if she still had eyes, a scene unfolded. An endless expanse of light surrounded her, not the harsh Texas sun, but a gentle warm glow like a fireplace on a winter night. It didn't blind her. It beckoned her, wrapping her in profound comfort. This wasn't the heaven of her childhood church paintings. No golden gates or flying angels, but a pure living presence. The light wasn't just something to see, it was alive, as if it knew her, understood her. Emily felt it seep into her soul, erasing invisible wounds she'd carried. Where am I? She wondered, but no answer was needed. She simply knew she was in a place beyond words or concepts she'd taught her students. Then a presence emerged beside her, not through a clear form but a deep sensation. Her heart, if she still had one, raced though her body was gone. She knew it was Jesus though no face appeared, no voice sounded in her ears. A wave of love washed over her, powerful yet tender, making her want to kneel if she could. Emily, a voice echoed in her soul, I have something to show you. With those words, she knew her true journey had begun. Emily felt herself moving, though she wasn't sure if she was walking, floating, or simply being in the boundless light. Jesus' presence beside her had no distinct form, no white robe or halo like the Sunday school pictures. Instead, he was a warm energy, a gentle certainty she felt in her soul. Don't be afraid, his voice resonated, not through sound but as vibrations through her. You're in a place where all is revealed. She looked around. The light still enveloped her, but now it shifted. Tiny ripples sparkled like a moonlit lake, and the space felt more alive than ever. Isn't this heaven? She asked, her voice echoing in her mind without lips to speak. Jesus answered with a smile. She didn't see it but felt its warmth. This isn't heaven as you imagine, Emily. This is where truth exists, where the hidden is unveiled. They continued moving. Though she didn't grasp how through the light, she realized this place had no edges, no beginning or end. It was like an infinite ocean of consciousness, where everything blended yet remained distinct. She felt small but not lost. She belonged here as if a part of her had always been present. What will I see? She asked, filled with awe and curiosity. The truth of what you've overlooked, Jesus replied, and with that, the scene before her began to change. Before Emily's eyes, the light contracted then expanded, forming a breathtaking vision. A vast tapestry appeared, stretching endlessly in all directions, woven from shimmering threads of light. Some were delicate as spider silk, faintly glowing, while others blazed like sunlight, pulsing with energy. The tapestry wasn't still. It moved, vibrating like a living symphony, each thread dancing to its own rhythm. What is this? She asked, her inner voice thick with wonder. Jesus stood beside her, still not a figure, but a presence she felt distinctly. This is the tapestry of prayer, he said, his voice warm as a breeze over a field. Every sincere prayer from a human heart is woven here. It's not just words, it's energy, a force that shapes the world. Emily looked closer, noticing details. A radiant golden thread wove through the tapestry, radiating warmth and joy. That's a prayer of gratitude from a father whose son survived a grave illness, Jesus explained. Another, a gentle green, curled like ocean waves. That's a mother's prayer for her child's healing. Each thread held a story, an emotion, and intent, and all were alive as if they had souls. Her heart, if she still had one, beat faster. Were all those half-hearted prayers before dinner, or whispered pleas when Mom was in pain, part of this too? You'll see, Jesus said, as if reading her thoughts. But first, understand that prayer isn't just words. It's how you connect to the Father, to each other, to the universe itself. Jesus waved, not with a hand but a gesture of will, and the tapestry zoomed in. A vibrant purple thread caught Emily's eye, cutting through others like a river through a plain. "Look," he said, and suddenly a vivid scene unfolded like a dream. It was Noah, her student, kneeling by his bed in a small East Austin room. The 16-year-old, eyes red with worry, whispered, "God, I don't know what to do. I want to be a writer, but Dad says it's a pipe dream. Show me the way." His prayer became that purple thread, and Emily saw it spread, touching the mind of another teacher she didn't know, who inexplicably decided to submit a writing scholarship application for Noah. "See," Jesus said. His prayer wasn't just a request. It opened a path, even if he doesn't know it yet. Emily nodded, tears or something like them falling. She'd never imagined a student's prayer could hold such power. Then he pointed to a faint red thread, nearly extinguished. "And this?" she asked. "A prayer without faith," he replied, voice tinged with sadness. It was spoken but not felt. It couldn't reach anyone. Emily began to understand. All those times she'd prayed without belief, like when Mom was sick, reciting familiar lines, must have been weak like that. Regret crept in, but Jesus touched her shoulder, not physically but with comfort. "Don't grieve, Emily. You're here to learn and to change." As the tapestry receded, Emily turned to Jesus. Though she couldn't see his face, his presence felt more real than ever. Like a friend, a teacher, and something greater, an endless source of love. "Why am I here?" she asked. "I'm not the most devout. I don't even pray right." He laughed, not audibly but as a warm wave through her. "You don't need to be perfect to be loved, Emily. The Father sees your heart. The nights you stayed up for Sophie, the hours you spent patiently with your mom, the moments you encouraged Noah. That's prayer too, even if you didn't name it so." His words stunned her. She'd never thought her actions held spiritual weight. He led her deeper into the light, and she felt his love intensify. It wasn't like earthly love, fleeting or conditional. This was timeless, without beginning or end, like the space itself. "You've forgotten this," he said. "You let life dim the truth that you're always connected to the Father through prayer, spoken or silent." Emily recalled nights sitting by Mom, wordless, just holding her hand, hoping she'd feel less pain. "Was that prayer?" she asked. "Yes," he replied. "Every sincere intent is prayer. And now you'll see how it works." Jesus pointed to the tapestry again, and this time Emily saw a more intricate web. The threads weren't solitary, they connected, forming patterns like a dew-kissed spiderweb. "Look closely," he said. She focused, and a faint golden thread emerged, tied to a memory of her own. She saw herself 5 years ago, in a hospital when Mom was diagnosed with Parkinson's. She'd whispered, "God, give her strength." That small, doubtful prayer became a thread, touching a nurse named Sarah. For no clear reason, Sarah spent extra time teaching Emily how to care for Mom, easing Margaret's life for years. "You didn't know that, did you?" Jesus asked. Emily shook her head, overwhelmed. She'd thought her prayers were useless. "See," he said. "Every prayer, even a weak one, has power if it comes from love. It doesn't vanish, it joins this web, keeping the world from chaos." Emily gazed at the tapestry, realizing it wasn't just a symbol. It was a living energy, linking every soul, every moment. And she knew her journey was only beginning. The tapestry shimmered with thousands of threads, each telling its tale. Jesus waved, not with a hand but a gentle intent, and a golden thread glowed, radiating warmth like spring sunlight. "Look here," he said, his voice a river through her soul. "This is the power of gratitude." A vivid scene unfolded. Emily saw Clara, her best friend, in her South Austin studio, hands smeared with paint. A year ago, Clara nearly lost everything in a gallery fire. Now she whispered, "Thank you, God, for new days, for a chance to start again." That prayer, pure thanks without asking, became the golden thread, spreading through the tapestry. Emily saw it touch an art patron in Dallas, who inexplicably decided to fund Clara's next exhibit, reviving her career. "See," Jesus said, "gratitude doesn't need to change circumstances. It illuminates what's already good, opening new doors." Emily nodded, awestruck. She recalled Clara's calls to meet for coffee, her radiant smile despite hardship. "I'm thankful for you, Em," Clara had said. Now she understood. Those words weren't just friendship. They were prayer, an unseen energy binding them. He pointed to another thread, smaller but bright. It was Sophie whispering before bed. "Thank you, God, for Mom, for her always being there." That thread reached Emily in the past, those tired nights reading bedtime stories. It had given her strength she hadn't noticed. "Gratitude is a small flame," Jesus said, "but it can warm the world." The tapestry shifted, and a vibrant green thread drew Emily's gaze, flowing like water with gentle power. "This is a prayer for healing," Jesus explained, guiding her into a new vision. She saw her mother, Margaret, in the early days of Parkinson's. One night, as tremors stopped her from holding a spoon, Emily had knelt by her bed, whispering, "God, ease her pain." It wasn't loud or faithful, but it was real. The green thread from that prayer spread, touching a doctor in Austin. He suddenly reviewed Margaret's file and suggested a new drug, easing her tremors for months. "You didn't know that, did you?" Jesus asked. Emily shook her head, tears or their essence falling. She'd thought her prayer failed. Then he showed a deep blue thread. It was Tom Wheeler's prayer when his wife died of cancer a decade ago. "God, heal my heart." It didn't bring her back, but it reached a local support group, where Tom found solace and purpose, including helping Emily. "Healing isn't always physical," he said. "Sometimes it's the soul." Emily's heart stirred. Healing prayers weren't just miracles, they bridged pain, big or small. A bold purple thread sliced through the tapestry, clear and strong like a lighthouse beam. "This is a prayer for guidance," Jesus said, and Noah Rodriguez appeared. Emily saw her student in despair, his father pushing him toward engineering over literature. "God, what do I do?" Noah whispered, eyes wet. That prayer became the purple thread, reaching Emily in the past. She recalled a class where she'd said, "You've got talent, Noah. Don't give up." She hadn't known it answered his prayer, guided by that purple light. It also touched another teacher, who submitted a scholarship for Noah, opening his dream path. "You were part of the answer," Jesus said. Prayers for guidance always find a way, even if you don't see. Emily gazed at the thread, recalling her own lost moments, like nearly quitting teaching from exhaustion. She'd mumbled, "God, should I keep going?" That faint thread led Clara to her with coffee and encouragement. "Guidance isn't always obvious," he said, "but it comes when you need it." The tapestry trembled, and a vast web of light emerged, hundreds of threads weaving into a radiant wave. "This is the power of collective prayer," Jesus said. Emily saw teachers and parents at Travis Heights, kneeling in the meeting room after a school violence incident. "God, bring peace here," they prayed. Their words merged into a blinding white surge, spreading through Austin. She saw it touch a troubled student, who abandoned a violent plan and sought a counselor instead. It reached the school board, prompting better security and support. "When many pray with one intent," he said, "it creates a force beyond the individual." Emily recalled childhood church services, the congregation singing hymns. She'd never thought it mattered. Now she knew she was wrong. He pointed to a weaker thread. But without shared faith, it fades. She saw a group praying mechanically, their light dim. "Collective prayer needs united hearts," he said, and Emily nodded, grasping faith's key role. Jesus led Emily to a corner of the tapestry, where her own threads glowed. A faint gold one from when Sophie was gravely ill at 3. "Keep her safe, God," had reached a doctor who found a cure in time. But then she saw dim threads, like prayers for Mom without belief, mere rote words. "Why so weak?" she asked. "Because you didn't trust, Emily," he replied, voice sad but not harsh. "Prayer isn't words, it's faith, love." She saw her sincere prayers, like asking strength to keep teaching, shining bright though small. "You did better than you think," he said, "but you missed chances to connect deeper." Regret mixed with hope in Emily. She'd never seen prayer as part of her. Now she knew it always had been. "What do I do?" she asked. "Return and live differently," he said, touching her shoulder. "Teach others what you've learned." The light around Emily deepened, as if the universe itself listened. Jesus' presence grew sharper, not in form but as a sacred feeling, the core of all life. "Emily," he said, his voice echoing in her soul. Before you return, I'll teach you a prayer, a way to connect with the Father and bring light to the world. The space hummed and he spoke, not audibly but as meaning seeping into her. Heavenly Father, I come with an open heart, not seeking my will but yours. Teach me to be grateful for what I have, trust what I can't see, and love what you love. The prayer flowed like a stream, each word alive with energy. Emily repeated it silently, peace spreading through her. He continued, give me strength to hear your voice in silence and chaos, to be a bridge for your love to others. Let every prayer I offer be light, not just for me, but for all your creation. This prayer felt different, not demanding but aligning, an invitation to join the divine. This isn't to change the Father, he said, but to change you. Will I remember this? She asked. He smiled, a warm wave. It's already in you, Emily. Live it, and you'll understand. The tapestry vibrated in agreement, and she knew this was her key forward. The tapestry faded, and Emily felt a gentle pull, like she was being drawn somewhere. Jesus stood beside her, his presence now a tender flame in her heart. You must return, Emily, he said. You have a mission. She looked at him, not with eyes but her soul, and asked, what mission? You've seen prayer's power, he replied. Now live it and teach others. Help them see that every prayer, every sincere intent, is a thread in the Father's tapestry. The world needs that light more than ever. Emily felt a vast responsibility but not burdensome. A loving call. I don't know if I'm strong enough, she said, her inner voice trembling. He touched her shoulder, not physically but with reassurance. You're not alone. The Father is with you, and the threads you've seen, from Sophie, Clara, Noah, Tom, will uphold you. She recalled their prayers, threads that reached her unknowingly. But I've missed so much, she said, thinking of her shallow pleas. That's why you're here, he said. Not to regret, but to begin anew. Each day is a chance to weave new light. She nodded, a small fire igniting within, not pride but purpose. I'll try, she whispered, and he smiled, the light around her blazing brighter. The light contracted, and Emily felt a strong pull, not painful but like an invisible cord tugging her back. Don't forget, Emily. Jesus' voice rang out, fading but clear. Live the prayer I taught you. Then darkness swallowed her. She opened her eyes, real eyes, to ambulance sirens and flashing lights. Cold air burned her lungs, raw but alive. She's back, a paramedic shouted, stunned. Emily coughed, her body shaking as oxygen returned. She heard Tom Wheeler's anxious voice. You okay, Harper? I saw you through the window. God, I thought we lost you. She was lifted onto a stretcher, gazing dazedly at the Texas night sky. Her heart restarted after 6 minutes. A miracle, the doctors later said. But Emily knew it wasn't just medicine. It was the tapestry. Tom's thread when he walked by, her mother's silent plea blocks away. God, keep Emily safe. In the hospital, she lay weak but ablaze inside. She recalled every word Jesus taught, every thread in the tapestry. I have to live differently, she whispered, and a nurse glanced over, thinking she was delirious. But Emily knew, she'd returned not just to live but to change. Emily left the hospital after 3 days, recovering faster than expected. Carbon monoxide should have done more damage, the doctor marveled. But you're almost unscathed. She smiled, silent. She knew it was the tapestry, unseen prayers shielding her. At home, she hugged Sophie tight, tears falling as her daughter said, I prayed for you every night at Grandma's. She met Clara, recounting her journey to her friend's amazement. I told you to pray, Clara laughed, but her eyes were serious. I get it now, Clara, Emily said. It's bigger than I thought. At school, she gave Noah a scholarship form she'd found. You deserve this, Noah. Don't give up your dream. He grinned, unaware his prayer had guided her. She called Tom, thanking him not just for saving her, but for the thread he'd woven through years of quiet help. Each night, Emily knelt by her bed, repeating Jesus' prayer. She didn't ask for herself, just thanked, listened, and hoped to be light for others. A new peace filled her, as if the tapestry now lived within, guiding her daily. 3 months later, March 12, 2025, Emily stood before her class, not just teaching literature, but sharing her story. Prayer isn't magic, she told her students, eyes alight. It's how we connect to each other to something greater. Every word you say, every good thought is light. Noah in the front row scribbled notes, eyes gleaming. She held a small prayer gathering at school after the violence. Not mandatory, just an invitation. Over 50 came, teachers, students, parents, lighting candles, praying for peace. In her mind, Emily saw a white wave like the tapestry rippling through Austin. Word spread and a parent wrote, "Miss Harper, I felt lighter after that night." At home, she sat with Mom reading the Bible, once ignored, praying together. Sophie joined, her small voice saying, "Thank you, God, for my family." Emily smiled, knowing each prayer added a thread to the endless tapestry. She wasn't the old teacher coasting through days. She'd become part of something greater, a messenger of light as Jesus promised.